Now that we have our environment set up, the next thing we need to see is what to do to pass the assignments. So there are 4 steps actually there. First, we need to import the assignment notebook. Then we have to implement missing functionality within this notebook, and then run the local tests that will trigger some simulations, and in the end we'll know whether our code passes or not. And finally, we report our submission to edX and get a grade. So let's see those in action. So here I have downloaded an example notebook that resembles a lot the notebooks you will work on the assignments. In this case, it's a perfect link example. So I have to implement basically a perfect link using Compix. First of all, when you get a new notebook, you have to import the notebook. So you just click here, import node, JSON, and then so let's go into our example. This is how a typical assignment looks like. At the beginning, there is some text that describes the behavior of the component you have to implement. And then there is something like a skeleton that contains typically some events that you can reuse and some handlers that you need to fill in. So in this case, we have to fill in these handlers here. So let's go ahead and try to implement the missing parts. So in this case, we have to trigger a message to the network. And then we need to compile basically whatever is there. Let's compile our changes. It compiles perfectly. You might notice that I have deliberately missed one part of the assignment. Of course, it compiles, but after each assignment, there is a check. There's a checker that checks locally with simulations whether the solution is correct. In this case, I use the checker for the perfect link. Mind that you should never edit these parts, otherwise you will not get any grade. So you should always run this. So let's check our results. Oh, we have actually missed one of the properties. As you can see here, no duplication, no creation have passed, but reliable delivery has not passed. It says there exist messages sent from correct processes that never got delivered to other correct processes. So that means that we have missed delivery here, or perhaps all deliveries. So let's fill this part. Cool. So let's see if it compiles. Wow, we have passed all the tests. So all properties are satisfied. And that means that we are half the way done to getting a grade for the submission. Here you can see the grading token. This is something that the grader over edX will read and assign you a grade. Okay, so the next step is to upload our assignment to edX. So all we have to do is first to export the notebook and then go to the edX page and the submission link. Here it asks for the contents of the JSON. What we simply have to do is to open them and copy paste them. I have opened this already here. So I paste the contents of my JSON, exported JSON file here. And then we run check. This can take a while. Cool. So it seems that we have passed all the tasks of this assignment. You see here we got pass. And that means that we got a grade. And that's it. Finally, last but not least, I will give you 3 very important tips to have in mind when you develop your assignments. First of all, I'll show you a couple of very common mistakes that you should try to avoid. Second, you should know how to restart Compix, the Compix interpreter within Zeppelin in case something goes wrong. And finally, how to interact with simulations. Okay, so one very common mistake is that many people forget to actually run all the previous imports before they define their components, so they get a lot of errors here. If you see that basic classes are not loaded, then just double check that you have imported your dependencies. Another thing that you should have in mind when you develop your components is that you should avoid defining custom, messages within component definitions, like case class my message. That means that when you have multiple components communicating with each other using this message and pattern matching over this message, they will basically never pattern match each other message because it will be a different type of object. Furthermore, if you see a lot of errors coming from the complex interpreter, that means something went wrong. There might also be problems with collisions of imports. If you have a class with the same name loaded over the same interpreter instance. In that case, I would recommend you to go to interpreter here and click restart, and that will basically restart the complex interpreter. So you will start fresh and continue programming. Just remember to run all the previous parts of the notebook again, because this will start from scratch. So you have to re-import all your dependencies when you do that. Since you might want to observe what's happening during the simulations, there is a way to do that. Actually, you can print messages here. So I can put like a print message in that handler, and whatever I print here will be actually copied into an output file, for which we provide a link here. So if you click this after the simulation, you will actually see all the messages printed during the simulation. You can actually observe what happened. This can be very useful to debug your component.